Yeah, hey everybody, this is Ian from Mindful Marketplace. In this video, I'm going to do something a little different, both for those of you in my personal community, our Mindful Marketplace community. It's not just mine, but I'm referring to it as mine for the purposes of this video. And for those of you who are also watching on YouTube or any of the other channels, this will be shared. So I get a lot of questions from folks who are building newsletters or want to build a newsletter for 2021. I think, in my own view, there is no better uh, bet on yourself. There's no better way of building your brand, of launching a platform, or even building a niche community if that's your goal, a marketplace, a directory, some sort of authority site. There is no better approach, in my view, than using a newsletter, not only to stress test the idea or put a minimum viable product out there in the world to see what sort of audience and engagement you can get, but also to build an asset and make an easy income in the process. So I'm going to show you a couple things really quickly from my own experience as a newsletter marketer. Here's just one newsletter that I run for our Podia community. As you can see, here are my statistics as of December 29th, 2020. I've sent roughly 100,000 emails. About 20% of people, a little under that number, open them. A very small percentage actually click on the links in the email, which is pretty pretty consistent. There's a 0% sales number reflected here, but that's only because these generally are not emails where I'm selling something. Generally sending these to people who've bought something already, and I rarely upsell anybody anything other than send information-oriented campaigns after someone's entered our funnel, which is a word I hate, but it's the word that is most appropriate here. Bounce rate, people who gave either a bad email or who left the email that they shared when they signed up, and the unsubscribe rate is 0.3%, which is actually quite good for those of you who are familiar with some of the email marketing metrics in the world. Having less a third of 1% of people unsubscribe from your list is quite heartening or quite good to see from the standpoint of engagement and attention and the general whatever the right word is that I'm missing here. People don't tend to really leave my list once they sign up. All right, but the truth of the matter is, this is not the approach that I think is the best approach if you're building a newsletter in 2021. So I get a lot of people who have asked, both in my own little community as well as in other communities that I'm a client or a member of, like I am part of other sort of entrepreneurial communities where I see a lot of attention from folks who are looking to, launch a list, in the next year, and I see a lot of the recommendations that they're getting from other folks, other of my peers in those communities, which I think is bad advice. I think a lot of the advice that they're getting is shitty advice because, for the most part, the vast majority of newsletter launches, people who are building these newsletter communities, fail no differently than most other projects fail. So I'm going to share with you just a really simple, short list. And I say all this at my own detriment as an affiliate. I'm an affiliate for Podia, and it would be easy to recommend that as the right way of building your newsletter. Of course, Podia is also more, for, as I pointed out, is it here? Here, right? These people are generally coming in already into my, they're coming in after having purchased something. It's not just a newsletter; it's an automation email sequence that is usually going out post purchase. But still, I see a lot of people being recommended to sign up with a platform like a Podia or like a MailChimp or like a ConvertKit, or even more frequently now using something like Substack, which is another newsletter platform that's grown quite popular in the last year and a half or so. And I think that's also a mistake. So without further ado, I'm going to share with you what I think is the best platform and why. So the best platform actually is here. You can't see it because my screen's cut off, but this is Revue, and this is it's a content curation service that sends newsletters for you. I'm not an affiliate for these guys. I'm a client. So, I'm not getting paid to recommend them. Obviously, I'm not providing any affiliate links. It's just a amazingly easy way to build either a niche community, an authority site, a following, an audience, some name recognition in your niche or in your area of expertise. Whatever it is that you want to build, you can build using this style software. There's a couple analogs or alternatives to Revue as well that are out there. There's something called Curated .co, which I've also used. Also a really good option, although I prefer Revue because it's much cheaper and I think it's prettier and it's easier to use. They have a great app, iPhone app. And essentially, as you can see from the Revue examples page, there's a shit ton of examples that you can see, that you can sign up for, so you can actually see how these look and act in the world. Some of these are quite large. Some of the publications that are running on Revue, for an example, the Chicago Sun-Times Sports. As a matter of fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Chicago Sun runs all of their niche kind of newsletters through Revue. Anyway, you can check that out on your own. You don't need me to go through these. But the most attractive thing for those of us on a bootstrap budget is you can really launch one of these for free, a fully featured, curated newsletter. I've done a full course on this a couple of years ago, so if you're interested in that, I'll send a link to that. Just send me an email, hi@mindfulmarketplace.com. I'll send you a link to what I think is a very good course on using newsletter marketing with a platform like Revue. But as you can see, it's really inexpensive, and you can launch, if you have 200 subscribers, it's $5 a month. If you have 2,000 subscribers, it's $10 a month. I mean, that's really, really affordable. And they do really, really cool things, which I'm going to cover right now. All right. So, this was part of another update that I shared somewhere else, or the bullet points of a thing. So you'll just see the bullet point titles. But, essentially start with a curated newsletter. I mean, that is much better than building a Substack or a MailChimp or that sort of newsletter. And I'll tell you why. Because, even using something like Substack, which is very, very cool and very popular, you're still writing long form content. When you're actually, it means you have to come up with the ideas, you have to write the words, you have to say all the stuff that gets incorporated in the newsletter. When you're using a content curation tool, other people are saying the stuff that's interesting to your audience. Your job simply is to curate or collect interesting, inspiring news, views, ideas, etc., rather than actually having to write this stuff yourself, right? So it's the quintessential approach. If you're building an authority style site, all you really do is it's actually the definition of what an authority site would look like, right? You're creating a jumping off point, an authority resource in your niche, in your local community, in your vertical, in your industry, in your topic of interest, your passion, etc., and you're using other people's content and then referencing that content as recommended reading, recommended resources, that sort of thing. And your job really is to only collect it and then add some short parenthetical comments, if you like, about the stuff that you're recommending, right? Pretty easy. Or, it's not only easy, it's actually fun, right? I mean, I have a blast. Some of the most enjoyable content creation that I do as a professional is curating content. And the reason, not only because it's fun, it's great for building relationships, right? I mean, your relationships with other people are going to grow so quickly. Your professional peers, your niche neighbors, other folks who are sharing space in your niche, industry, vertical, etc., are going to be, you're going to surface yourself as an authority or an expert by dint of sharing people's content, their blog posts, their social media. When there's an old saying in direct marketing, which is let them say it for you. And essentially, when you reference other people's work, people are going to share that. So, you are going to, if you reference people in your niche who are already thought leaders, people you want to build relationships with, and you're citing them as a good resource, a blog post, a product, a book, and then you share that on social media. You, let's say, tag them or whatever and reference that they were featured in your most recent newsletter. Those folks are going to share what you've said about them, right? It's very, very natural. It's human psychology. I've talked about this for a long time, for years. This is a great way of just getting yourself noticed in a niche. And a newsletter where you're actually referencing other people's content is a super simple way of doing just that in a natural, organic, and holistic way. All right, so uh, bullet point number 3, I'm going to skip this one for now, is get super nichey. And I've learned this the hard way, right? I mean, the more I try to incorporate multiple audiences in a newsletter, the more people I lose, right? So I showed you those unsubscribe rates in my own newsletter are super small. But what I do see when I incorporate too many sort of audiences, or I'm talking to too many people at once, these unsubscribe rates always dramatically go up. So, for an example, in my own community, we have an audience that are interested in mindfulness meditation and all sorts of different mindfulness-oriented tools and techniques, and mental health and spiritual growth and all that sort of stuff, and people who are interested in entrepreneurialism or making money with their businesses, with their brands, writing books, and doing all those sorts of things. And while there is some crossover interest, I do find that for the most part, when I speak to both groups at once, one group is super disinterested, right? So if I'm writing about meditation techniques, the entrepreneurial group doesn't care. And if I'm writing about entrepreneurial groups or entrepreneurial content, the people who are interested in meditation or mindfulness or that sort of stuff, they don't care. So those unsubscribe rates for me always go up. So the nichier you get, the better it's going to be for your brand, for your business, for your your publishing platform. And what I recommend here is just create 2 newsletters, or create. I can't type, as you can see. I shouldn't be writing content about writing if I can't spell the word newsletter. All right, so rather than doing 1, create 2. Right, so if you have multiple audiences, just write to more than one. Just write more than one newsletter. All right, number 4, set the bar super low. And the reason for that is, in my own experience, the higher you raise the bar for yourself, which I do quite often to my own detriment. So I'll tell myself I'm going to publish something new every day, right? And that's this sort of aspirational goal that I bring to my publishing efforts, because I want to be motivated and I want to get a lot of stuff done, and I want to be this prolific, publisher, and et cetera, et cetera. And then essentially what happens is I'll miss a day, and then I'm disappointed in myself, and I'll make it back the next day, but then I'll miss 2 days later, and then I'll start noticing people aren't noticing that I'm missing a day. So I'm thinking, screw it, why don't I can kind of back burner this for this week, and then before you know it, the whole project gets like sort of pushed and skedaddled, and you don't actually follow through. As an alternative to setting the bar high, set the bar super low. So tell yourself, I'm going to publish once a week rather than once a day. And if you're using something if you're using a curated service like this, publishing once a week is super duper easy, right? I mean, there's like almost nothing to do other than collecting content and then hitting publish, right? So it's really, really elegant, and it expedites the process to the point where there's almost no excuse not to be able to at least do one of these a week, right? So set the bar low, promise once a week rather than once a day to yourself and to your audience, and then you can always increase the frequency, right? It's much easier to start to, change that to twice a week or, once a day if you get to that point, than it is to start at once a day and then later, backtrack to twice a week or once a week. You're just sending the wrong message both to yourself and to your readers. All right. Spend more time on curating the content rather than writing the content. Again, I covered this in this course that I did a couple of years ago, which I would certainly recommend if you're interested in seeing exactly how to do this. But curating the content is, when you're doing this sort of newsletter, it's like 85% of the work. So, rather than like staring at a blank screen or feeling like you are, stuck from a writer's block perspective, whenever that happens, just curate more content. And really, curating content in this capacity is, following people on Twitter who are saying interesting things, using Google Alerts, using Google News, setting Google Alerts so you're getting notified, when content is being published in the keywords that you specify, or people within the niche or industry that you're publishing in. Or you can set keyword alerts around people as well as topics, right? So, if you have people in your space who are thought leaders or who are rock stars, who are, folks that you want to cultivate relationships with, get alerted when they publish new content, or they tweet something interesting, or they write a new book, or give a new interview, or do a new podcast. And then, when you share their content, when you curate their content, and then you cite them in your own marketing efforts, in your, let's say Twitter or Facebook efforts, when you ping people who are publishing content and you're letting them know that you've referenced them as a resource in your curated newsletter, they're going to like you, like as we covered up here, like building relationships as a goal. Let them say it for you. When you're saying it for them, they don't have to brag because you're bragging for them by dint of, complimenting their content. All right, link liberally and compliment courageously. This is really kind of a piece of this above, right? I mean, Google likes sites that like other sites that Google likes, right? So I've always kind of used that like Dr. Seuss sort of analogy or approach when it comes to SEO. But the more you link liberally to other authority sites, the more Google will look at your site as an authority as well, and you'll get more free traffic, you'll get more, keyword-friendly traffic, et cetera, et cetera. I'm certainly no SEO expert, but this has always proven true to me. I wrote that little, Dr. Seussy sort of thing like a decade ago, and I'm still no SEO expert, but I can tell you that works better than 90% of the, bullshit SEO advice that you'll pay for online. All right, and compliment courageously. I can't spell courageous, obviously, either, but super important, right? You have to be a little bit courageous to want to publish a platform, to want to own an authority site, an asset, and to want to make money from it. And you do that by complimenting people, as we've covered up here. If you've read a book that you like and it's somebody who you really, really look up to and don't feel confident in like reaching out to them directly, just use the book as something to compliment, and then cite them as the author of the book in your newsletter, on Twitter, on Facebook. And the more you do that, the more attention and appreciation you're going to get from your professional peers, your niche neighbors, and your ideal audience, right? If I go after the most if I take the 10 books that have been most impactful on me from the standpoint of, let's say, a mindfulness-based perspective, and I just reference those relentlessly in my own newsletter as really influential, and I continuously cited those authors. I don't care if it's The Power of Now or John Kabat-Zinn or these real luminaries in the mindfulness, or let's say spiritual growth space. At a certain point, you're going to get noticed by those people because you're really actively promoting their work in a very favorable way. You just have to be willing to be courageous and compliment courageously. Okay, what can you borrow to build? What can you leverage to launch? Here's a thing that I say often about launching something like this. Always don't recreate the wheel. Look for software, services, tools, tech, products, and platforms that are available to you to expedite the process of building your brand. In this case, again, Revue allows you to quickly and easily build a curated newsletter. You don't have to program it yourself. You don't have to hire some software developer. For $5 a month, you have everything you need to succeed by borrowing this tool, this platform, this software to launch your brand. All right. There's a whole piece about this on affiliates that I don't really want to go into so much in this particular video. That's why I skipped it up here. But when it comes to affiliate marketing, take the initiative and don't. So, okay, let me say it like this. I'd rather see people, and I just had this conversation in a private community about this, not my community, someone else's community, about fee-based newsletters. I don't recommend charging for access to your newsletter. I recommend instead using an affiliate marketing model rather than a fee-based model. And what that means is, for my own personal life, I don't pay for a lot of content when it comes to, let's say, the New York Times or there's all sorts of publications that I'll find online that I want to read a story and I come across a story and it's gated or it's restricted or it's fee-based. I tend to skip it, right? I'm not interested in paying to read content, or Medium's a good example. Like, I don't pay for Medium. Like, I find it frustrating when I come across articles that are shared on Twitter or Facebook, and I'll go to that article to read it, and it has a gate, right? You have to pay to access it. So I don't recommend that for newsletters either. Instead, I don't think it's a good model of getting your work out into the world. I think what's a much better model from a monetization standpoint is affiliate marketing, right? So build relationships with your professional peers. All this is about that. And then say to those folks, hey, I love that course that you've created. We're going to do a review of the course, and I'd like to recommend it as an affiliate in our newsletter or on our newsletter, or that consulting or that event that you do, or that consulting offer that you have. Do you have an affiliate program for that? And if you do, I'd like to promote that to our audience as a recommended resource. So the reason that I don't want to get into this in a lot of detail here, but also why I really recommend this approach, is because it gives you a myriad of monetization opportunities. So one, you can set people. A lot of people are going to say, sure, you can promote my coaching, private coaching on your newsletter. I would love that. How do I pay you? And you can say, well, do you have an affiliate program? And they're going to say no. A significant percentage, the vast majority, are going to say no. So that gives you the opportunity of A, setting them up with an affiliate program as a digital media brand offer, right? As a marketing consultant, you can help them set that up. B, you can just simply recommend something like Podia, right? Which is what we use. I've been referencing that all over the place up here, but that's what I use here, right? This is my Podia account. And everyone that signs up for Podia that I recommend or that I refer, I get 33% of the fees they pay Podia forever, right? So you could just say to someone like me, sure, Ian, we will promote your coaching or consulting on our newsletter. Do you have an affiliate program? And I do, but if I didn't, I would say no. And then you could say, well, we recommend Podia. Let us help you set that up for free if you sign up using our partnership link. We're a partner for Podia. And if you sign up, they pay us a fee. So we're happy to help you get the whole thing set up. And then we'll promote your offer on Podia, on our newsletter for a commission. So now you're making money from them paying Podia, right? They're signing up for a really great service that does something they need done, and you're getting an affiliate commission of 33% of, let's say, the money that I'm paying Podia. But in addition to that, you're also going to be getting conversion, you're going to be getting fees on every conversion that is facilitated through your platform. And also, you can charge a fee for this as well. So it gives you three different either individual opportunities to monetize, or in aggregate, three ways of sort of compounding the commissions that you can earn, or the fees that you can earn, offering a really viable, valuable, needed thing to your to the folks that you're referencing as on your newsletter, or your professional peers, your niche neighbors, or the folks who are in your target audience. All right. And again, I don't want to cover all this too much more, because that's more about affiliate marketing, and this is really more for newsletter marketing. But the last thing I'll say is, if you're struggling to build something, right? If you struggle to build an audience, a following, a platform, a niche community, and you've tried WordPress, you've tried all these different platforms, plugins, tools, and tech, the thing that will change your experience as a professional publisher in 2021 is a newsletter, right? This sort of newsletter, for those of you who are not familiar with some of the really amazing success stories that have emanated from simple newsletters, something like the Skim. Again, I'm showing off my inability to spell. The Skim. I mean, this was two women who started this sort of curated newsletter in their apartment in New York City and built it into this huge publishing platform. And all they were doing was collecting and curating news that they could share with their friends, their family, using a very specific, kind of sarcastic, folksy sort of conversational, cute, just a very, kind of like a tribe-like conversation that folks in their own little community would resonate with. And their families and their friends shared and shared and shared their little newsletter until it became a real thing. And now this is a major publishing platform. Producthunt, again, same idea. If you haven't checked out Producthunt, it's amazing. It's this curated community of like tech startups and products and inspired software communities, and all these like great innovative tools and tech, software and services. And it's this great community has arisen from this, what started off as a newsletter. The founder of Producthunt essentially was just collecting these resources in a newsletter fashion until it really started to take off. And then he actually created this whole community platform around his newsletter. So all of this can be done starting on a bootstrap budget with something literally as small as a review, just like any of these. Recommendo, I actually subscribe to. This is Kevin Kelly, who's a really well-known innovator in the tech space. I believe he actually was one of the founders or editors of Wired magazine. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant guy. He has with some of his his friends or his coworkers or whatever. He has this newsletter which I subscribe to, totally independent of Revue. It's just a great newsletter. I think I subscribe to this one as well. I mean, there's a bunch of great newsletters you can find on platforms like this, and it's a great alternative to something like a Substack or a MailChimp newsletter, which I find are much more likely to lead to writer's block or frustration or boredom. And it's not so much a community as it's your own thing when you're doing that sort of writing. Whereas this, you're actually, when you're using something like Revue, you're actually building a community around your content, around your, around your words, your wisdom, your passion, your sense of purpose, or even your local community. If you're building something in a city or a local town, like a directory, this is actually such a great way of quickly launching something amazing that doesn't require tools or plugins or all that sort of all the mess and stress that we all have dealt with trying to configure WordPress to work for the directory of our dreams. All right, something like this is a really good alternative if you've struggled with that approach, and I would love to see more people doing that in 2021. All right, hope this helps a little bit. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, hi@mindfulmarketplace.com. I also have a course on this. It's not expensive. It's a couple years old, but I think it's more relevant than ever. If you're interested in that, I'll send you a link to that. Just shoot me an email. I'm happy to share it with you. If you can't afford the course, I think it's $29. If you can't afford it, I'm also happy to give it to you for free. Okie doke. That's it. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to reach out. And if I can, I'm happy to help. Thanks.